thought I'd make this video because I've been on antidepressants for about 3 months now, and I've had depression and anxiety for about 3 years. It's going pretty well. I've seen huge improvements that I would have otherwise not seen if I hadn't taken antidepressants. I'm advocating antidepressants here, but obviously it depends on your situation. But I thought I'd kind of offer some insights into what exactly it does, how you feel, and then address some of the concerns that you might have as to why you wouldn't want to take antidepressants. So, should you take them or not? I think if you're severely depressed and your doctor advises you to, you should give it a go. If you're not severely depressed, but you found that you've been depressed for a week or two and something's not right, I suggest you try exercise, eating right, trying to fix your sleep, try to get some kind of schedule or routine going. Those are things that you have to get a grip on with or without antidepressants. It's just an assistance to help you cope and to deal with it and to hopefully get better. So one of the things that I was kind of concerned about was the fact that a lot of people relapse. Their depression seems to have gone away, and as soon as they get off of it, they're back into it. Just the fact that antidepressants nowadays are overprescribed, and doctors can be motivated to prescribe you the medicine because it benefits them financially. So that's something to be skeptical of, and that's perfectly reasonable. Another thing is that we don't really understand depression and how it works exactly. There's this theory that it's a chemical imbalance and that we're not receiving enough of the happiness chemical, serotonin. And just this idea that the brain is this chemical soup that if we just add serotonin to throughout the whole brain, that it'll fix it. There's some studies out there that say that it's actually just a specific part of the brain that needs to be addressed, not the entire brain. And so this solution would kind of be an overkill or lead to side effects that we have not yet discovered. Another thing was my pride. I felt like I could fix this on my own, and that if I needed to ask for assistance, it would kind of just mean that I was weak. Eventually, it's 3 years, and I got to the point where I became kind of a mad scientist in my own room, scribbling over post-its, posting them all over my wall. My wall was covered in just like writing, trying to figure out the one solution the one tip or trick that would get me out of all of this nightmare. You are already introspective when you're depressed, but you have to continue to try and get to the root of the issue. But after a while, I wasn't really seeing any noticeable improvements. So I thought, why not give it a try? January, I started taking antidepressants. It's been about 3-4 months. The first 2 months I took Lexapro. The first week or two, the side effects kind of outweighed the benefits. I was feeling really tired. I was even more anxious than I was before. My hands were already clammy as hell, but they were even more. They were just like dripping with sweat in like situations that didn't call for it, that didn't need it at all. It just made everything worse. But then after the first 2 weeks, those side effects kind of subsided. I went up to, 20 milligrams? So I think that's the highest. It wasn't like the difference wasn't like day and night. It was kind of a gradual thing. Only after looking back, 2 months in, I noticed how big of a difference it made. Also, days where I didn't take it, I noticed how much the pill was helping. Basically, what it does is it dampens the lows. And I'm not sure about the highs, but I think it also dampens the highs. So basically, your mood when you're depressed, obviously, it's very volatile, right? So it's easy for you to suddenly find yourself in a really dark place, and it's difficult to get out just because, I don't know, there's a thought that triggered. Something happened that day that you just couldn't get out of your head, and you couldn't stop, obsessing about, and it eventually just consumed you, and you realize hours have passed and you're still in the same mood, right? And it just keeps getting worse and worse. So basically what antidepressants do is that it keeps you from falling into that spiral by dampening. So if your mood could change from here to here, it would kind of squish it. So you'd be a lot more constant in your mood, which isn't to say that it solves the problem, because it doesn't. That's where I find cognitive behavioral therapy to be a huge help. I've only just started officially, But just from, like I said, when I thought I was going crazy writing all this stuff down, I was already developing thought processes that would interrupt this spiral. Things like one thought that really helped, just as I was about to do something that I would regret, or rather not do something I should be doing, is to remind yourself that you have a choice. When you remind yourself that you have a choice, it's almost like a challenge. It's like something happens, you're like, well, that's the whole day fucked for me. Instead of thinking like that, remind yourself in those moments, kind of like a mantra that I told myself, and it would help so much. It started with little things like I'd be playing basketball in the gym and I'd be missing a bunch of shots in a row. And just as I was about to leave, I tell myself, just because you've been in this cycle of in this cycle doesn't mean that it has to be this way. So every time that happens, I say, look, you have a choice. So I stay there until I start getting shots, and soon enough I'm back in the flow of making them, and I try to always end on a good note. This is obviously just sports, but it also has, I feel like I've been able to take this mentality into other areas of my life, like the things I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be working on university applications right now, so whenever I feel like I'm done, my brain is fried, I might get distracted and start making music or go on YouTube. I know that I'll start feeling guilty. Yeah, I'll feel comfortable for a little bit, but it's just postponing the problem. In the end, it just creates guilt and shame that greatly outweighs the fear that you have at the beginning. And I realized the positive emotions that you feel from doing the things that your gut tells you to do also outweighs that initial feeling of comfort that you get from distracting yourself. I guess they're kind of like highs, right? Anyways, what was I talking about? Right. So antidepressants, it basically just dampens the lows and it puts you in a more consistent mood, and it kind of acts like a buffer, allows you to snap out of those moments where you're about to do something that you'll regret. It kind of gives you a little space to seize control. The concerns that I raised earlier about relapse, so I talked to my doctor and she was saying that less than 25% of people actually relapse after they've taken their SSRI for about a year. That's the recommended length. If you do it any shorter, apparently the relapse rate goes up dramatically. But SSRI for about a year in combination with CBT, the chance of you relapsing is less than 25%. And that's assuming that you've chosen an SSRI, because there's many SSRIs and everyone's different and they all work differently depending on you. So this is assuming that you've chosen the right SSRI for you. So right now, for example, I'm not on Lexapro anymore because although I was seeing huge benefits, I felt like I was pretty tired and I still had trouble getting out of bed. So I switched to Zoloft, which is supposed to be a little higher in energy, which I haven't really seen so far, but then again, I've only been on it for like about a week and a half and it takes about a month to take full effect. So I guess I'll make an update on that when I get close, just trying to see if there's anything else I've missed. So in terms of how it exactly works in the brain, I can't answer that. I'm not a neuroscientist, but all I can say is that for the first time in 3 years, I feel like I'm really making progress, and I think a big part of it is because of this medication. It's kind of just giving me the space to do the things that I need to do, try to build the foundation that I need to go up, you know. And when you're in a low place and when everything is just in a mess, all the basic things that you need to succeed in life aren't really sorted. It's hard. It's like it's exponential, like not exponential, but there's like a huge, not a learning curve, but at the beginning, once you have a couple pillars, like you have a community that supports you, that you're a part of, once you have your health right, if you have exercise down, you already have some things to work off of. But when you have none of those, it's hard to get up onto your feet. And this medication really just helped me to do that. And I feel like a lot more optimistic than I was before I started taking it. The medication makes you less moody, but it doesn't solve the underlying problem. I've noticed that before I started thinking about the type of strategy that I needed in order to combat the thoughts I was having. Every time I was off the pill, obviously my mood dipped, but then it was kind of like I was back to where it all started, right? But as I started to kind of practice this CBT, these techniques, trying to intervene in my train of thought, and trying to kind of redirect where I was going with them, as I said before, with like, for example, the mantra, you have a choice, right? Once I started doing that, the days that I forgot to take my medication, even though my mood dipped just as much as it did before, I was now able to better deal with that situation when it came up, because CBT teaches you how to deal with it. Medication lessens the extremes, right? So as soon as you're off of it, theoretically, you're back to square one because you haven't actually learned anything in terms of how to deal with it. So that's why I think that you recommend you to have a combination of the two. Medication is there to give you a little space in order to experiment with and practice these techniques. And then once you've established them and once you've gone off the medication, you have this strong foundation of CBT underneath to support you. So just thought I might mention that. As a conclusion, I guess I'd say, first of all, talk to a doctor, see what's up. If you're severely depressed, I'll definitely recommend you to take SSRI. I think it doesn't hurt to at least just give it a go. If your depression's not that bad, then, and you've only had it for a little while, try exercise. Oh, right. Exercise and writing are two things that have helped me tremendously. Exercise is good because obviously you feel good after you've done something, right? Like you feel like you've accomplished something after your workout, and that feels amazing. But in addition to that, you get a boost of was it dopamine? I think it was dopamine. Anyways, you shit, I forgot what it was called. It releases happy chemicals in your brain after you've done your workout, and that helps to kind of solidify it as a habit, right? Because for all habits to
What you talking about?
to become a habit, you need some kind of reward, right? You have to have an incentive to do it. And coupling just the fact that you've done something and this boost in dopamine, it really helps to have a habit in general, that something that you can you have consistently throughout your week, something that allows you to take the stress off of you whenever you're frustrated or feeling anxious or depressed. The idea of going to the gym is daunting, but if you can somehow turn that depression into anger at yourself even, you can at least get the energy to get yourself to the gym. And once you're at the gym, everything becomes easier. Once you've started that first exercise, that whatever made that task daunting is kind of gone, because you're already in the process. You just have to continue doing what you're doing right now. And then as soon as you know it, you're looking back, you're like, thank God I went to the gym, because I feel fucking amazing. My whole day is just changed. It's no longer this nightmare. It's kind of like your reality's changed. You feel good. Now you feel like, all right, well, what's next? What can I do next? What do I have to do? Let's go do that. Like it's a boost of energy. First, I exercise. When people say, you just have to exercise, I'm like, so you're saying that if I exercise, then I'll solve this fucked up problem that I have taking over my whole life, that I haven't been able to get out of for this many months, this many years. It's like, it's too easy. It can't be the solution to it. And it's not the solution alone, but it's a huge part of it. And I think battling depression, it's a variety of things that you have to do together, but it starts with one thing, right? So for me, medication really just allowed me to kind of have a little bit more energy, feel less anxious in situations that I would normally be very anxious in, like going to the coffee shop and ordering a coffee. Like that was scary to me. And now it's still a little like, it's not exactly comfortable. I don't feel like, I don't feel amazing, but it's definitely a lot easier. What else? Yeah, apart from exercise, they'll definitely start with the medication if you're at that stage. If not, try to get yourself doing some kind of physical activities for about 30, my doctor says 30 minutes a day. Go running. Going for a run is amazing as well. I hated it when I was in school. Like the idea of just running for the sake of running didn't make any sense to me, because I'm a football player or soccer player, so I'm used to chasing something, chasing a ball at least, or like kicking it in a goal. I've kind of learned to appreciate not running for running, but running as a way to release all that negative energy. Get in the routine of just have some kind of consistency in your life, because when you're depressed, everything you're kind of just lost in nothingness. Like, just you're inactive, you're not doing anything, you're just allowing time for your thoughts to take over. And when you're not doing something, you have more time to think, and obviously depression is a problem with thinking, so you want to be doing stuff. So exercise is a big thing. Another thing for me, I wrote a lot. That helped me cut through all the bullshit in my head and get something concrete down on paper. It was a way for me to see my own thoughts, because when it's up here, there's all these other thoughts swirling around in there at the same time. It's hard to kind of, you don't even know what you're thinking. You'll lose track of, suddenly, like, one train of thought you had, you've lost it, and you're looking at another one, and then you're like, but wait, what was I thinking about 2 seconds ago? Fuck. And then that kind of makes you even more anxious, and then suddenly you have like a million different things going on in your head. So writing just allows you to focus on one train of thought, brings a little bit of order to the chaos, I guess. And once you have those thoughts on paper, then you can kind of go back, look at it, and analyze it. Use it as a way to express yourself. And then often what I found is that coming back to what you wrote previously, after having waited a little bit, you start to realize, like, for example, if I was in a really shitty mood and I was writing, I was really angry at myself, I come back and look and I'd be like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever said in my life. I can't believe that that's what I was thinking at the time. Like, that's some fucked up shit. It kind of helps you identify like where you are in your mental state. But expression in general, like art is a good way to express yourself. Music, you just need to express yourself, because when you're depressed, you don't want to talk, you don't want to do anything. You're bottling everything up inside, and that's the worst thing you can do, because it just consumes you and it snowballs into something bigger and bigger. So you have to really just let that out, and to kind of show yourself, like, you need to be able to see what's going on inside. If you don't put that out there, you can't see it. It's just in here the whole time. You can't see what's in here. So yeah, writing and exercise are the two biggest things that have helped me so far, in addition to medication. I hope that kind of helps. That's all I have to say.